Hey everybody, this is GGB. Normally I do a recap of the upsets that happened yesterday, but we had no upsets. I feel like most people expected it, considering, like, Providence could be upset. I mean, like, that's a team that could be upset, but they were playing Georgetown. Not a good basketball team. Houston is playing in a conference where the only really competition is SMU. They're way better than every other team outside of the Mustangs. Maryland has the possibility of upsetting Ohio State, but obviously it showed today that Ohio State was a significantly superior team. So we have 3 games going on today that could be upset. Remember, I'm recording this, so don't attack me for this, but I'm recording Sunday night, so this is not going to be probably the exact rankings these teams are going to have, but I'd bet that all 4 teams that are playing today are ranked in the top 25 come next week. So we're going to go with these numbers. At 6 o'clock, we have Virginia, which is at 14-9, traveling to number 9, Duke, which is at 19-3. Duke favorite by 11.5 points on ESPN. 8 o'clock, we have number 7, Arizona, which is at 19-2, traveling to Arizona State, which is at 7-13. Arizona favorite by 13.5 points on FS1. 8 o'clock, we have number 10, Kansas, which is at 19-3, traveling to number 23, Texas, which is at 17-6. Texas actually favored by 1.5 points on ESPN. So, now that we're talking about it, let's examine the first conference that we have up, the Atlantic Coast. The Atlantic Coast Conference, Duke sits at the top of. Again, Notre Dame's right behind it, only 1 game back in the loss column. So this is a huge game if you're watching for Notre Dame. Remember, Duke wins, nothing's going to change all that much except they will have a game lead over Notre Dame. If Duke loses this game, Notre Dame is tied for first place in the ACC. So huge game. If you're a Fighting Irish fan, you're going to be watching this game pretty intensely. On the other flip of the coin, you have Virginia. Virginia sits at 8-5 in conference. A loss isn't going to do much to them. Remember, the closest team to them is Syracuse and Florida State. They both sit at 6-6. So even with the loss for Virginia, they're still up 2 games in the win column. Now, with a win for Virginia, they will have won 9 out of 14 basketball games. That would put them at a 64% win percentage. Miami and UNC have both won 8 out of 12, which is 3/4, which is, oh, shoot. Yeah, they're not going to catch up to... Sorry, guys. 8 out of 12 is significantly better. Actually, not significantly better. I was thinking my math was a little bit wrong. Virginia would still be behind, but they'd only be about 2% behind Miami and UNC. So big game for Virginia to stay in this race. So the only thing that could possibly happen tonight with an upset is Duke getting into a tie for first place. Virginia is not going to change no matter what they do tonight. Looking at the Big 12, you got Kansas playing Texas, right? Texas can't really move, right? With a win, they move to 7-4 in conference. Baylor and Texas Tech would both be 1 game ahead of them in the loss pile. But again, it would get Texas significantly closer. Again, and then also obviously Kansas with a win, they're in first place. They have basically a 2-game head start on Baylor and Texas Tech. But even with a loss for Kansas tonight, Kansas would fall to 8-2, and that'd be good for Baylor, right? They'll only be about a game back. But obviously, Kansas isn't going to fall down anywhere. But if you're a Baylor or Texas Tech fan, kind of rooting for Texas tonight, even though it'll make your life a little bit worse. Texas with a loss falls to 6-5. That'll make TCU's life a lot easier in trying to pass Texas. So look for that if you're a TCU fan. Kind of hoping for a Kansas win here. And then you got the Pac-12. Again, the Pac-12, again, nothing all that interesting. I mean, these games are going to be interesting, obviously. I mean, Virginia playing Duke is always going to be a good matchup. Arizona State has a hot hand recently. And Texas-Kansas is going to be one of the best games of the week, in my opinion. But it's not. Most of these games aren't going to impact much of the standings. If Arizona was to lose this game, they fall to 9-2, right? Still a game ahead of UCLA, but again, UCLA and Oregon would be thanking everyone if Arizona State could pull off this pretty significant upset. Arizona State, on the other hand, where they win, can move to 4-7, 2 games back in the win column behind Colorado. It's not totally inconceivable that they could catch Colorado at this point. I mean, Arizona State's playing some pretty phenomenal basketball, and everyone saying that Arizona State doesn't have a chance against Arizona obviously did not see the past week of basketball. Because while they're 1-2 in their last 3 games, those 3 games have been against Arizona, USC, and UCLA, the 3 best teams in the Pac-12, and they've almost gone 3-0. Arizona State, the Arizona game was arguably not super duper close. It was tied at halftime, but Arizona State kind of ran away with it in the final 5 or so minutes. The USC game was that was a game that Arizona State played better than USC and arguably should have won that game. They won the game against UCLA because they were the better basketball team that night. So Arizona State is a team that's like at the bottom of the conference, but I would not want to play Arizona State right now. Like, they are significantly better than Cal, Utah, and Oregon State. And I don't want to hate on Utah as much as Oregon State and Cal. Obviously, Oregon State and Cal have both been pretty pathetic this season. Cal has lost 10 straight. Oregon State's lost 7 straight. Oregon State's 1-9 in conference. Cal's 2-11. Utah, I view differently. They're a very young basketball team. They're trying to build something there. And, I mean, you could have watched them against UCLA a couple of nights ago. They almost pulled off a huge upset there. They're a young team that's getting better, and I don't really blame them for that. The Utes are a team that I view in a favorable light. They're a program that's getting better in my eyes. So I'm fine with Utah being at the bottom, but of those teams, would you not want to play Arizona State? Would you not? I mean, I'm sorry, I phrased that wrong. The team I would least want to play is Arizona State, and it would make sense because they have the best in-conference record of the 4, easily one of the scarier teams in the Pac-12. It's really kind of interesting if you've not been following Pac-12 basketball. The Sun Devils are a legitimately scary team. So who does GGB think is going to pull off the upset? I'm probably going to go with the safe move here, guys. I like Arizona State over Arizona. I'm not going to lie. I think that's an upset that could happen. If you want to take the betting line on that, I wouldn't blame you. I mean, 13.5 points is a good amount of points to put on Arizona State. But I have to go Texas. Just for pure winning reasons, I feel like Texas, number one, they're favored by 1.5 points, and they would meet my upset rules. So I feel like that's a good bet there. But Texas have been playing some pretty good basketball. Obviously beat a very good Iowa State team 2 nights ago. The Longhorns are playing some of their best basketball of the season. I like to see that continue here. I think they can pull off the upset against Kansas. But everybody that's GGB saying adios amigos, go Longhorns.